how people expect you to be okay just like that. They break you down, lie straight to your face, drain every last ounce of light you had inside, and then look at you like you're the one with the problem because you didn't smile through the entire storm. Let me tell you something straight. It's okay to break. It's okay to bleed. This world, this twisted carnival of masks and endless manipulation, was never built for people like you. You cared deeply. You gave freely. You stayed loyal when nobody deserved it. You listened for hours to people who wouldn't stop talking about their issues, but the moment the weight crushed your own chest, they vanished into thin air. And that's the real punchline, isn't it? The instant you start needing even a sliver of what you gave to everyone else, you get nothing but silence. That cold, echoing silence. But don't let yourself get lost in it. Let it sharpen you instead. Let it teach you hard lessons. Let it grow claws deep inside your soul. So the next time someone tries to cut you wide open, you've already forged a blade from your own pain. They'll say you changed. They'll whisper behind your back that you become cold, detached, even cruel. But none of them saw you shatter in private behind closed doors. None of them stood by your side when your faith was ripped to shreds. When the people you trusted the most turned out to be nothing but hollow shells filled with sweet-talking words and completely empty actions. So I'll say it once more. It's okay. It's okay to feel everything crashing in at once, that crushing weight on your shoulders, that suffocating loneliness in your lungs, that rage boiling just beneath your calm exterior. Let it all in. Don't run from it. Don't try to numb it away. Pain doesn't show up to destroy you. Pain arrives to wake you up. And trust me, darling, you've been asleep for way too long. You want to know what I learned sitting alone in the dark, staring straight into the void with nothing but my own madness bouncing back at me? I learned that the most dangerous people in this world aren't the ones carrying weapons. They're the ones who pretend to love you while secretly sharpening the knife behind your back. They're the ones who feed off your light like vampires, but bolt out the door the second your flame starts to flicker. And when you're finally burnt out, when you're hollow and completely dry inside, they stare at you and say, "You've changed." No, sweetheart, you didn't change. You adapted. There's a huge difference. You were never too emotional. You were never too kind. You were never too giving. You were just surrounded by people who had absolutely no clue what to do with a real, authentic soul. That's the real tragedy here. You gave them the purest version of yourself, and they didn't recognize its true value until you were already gone. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to go completely quiet. It's okay to become a little colder, a little smarter, a little less available to everyone. That's not weakness. That's pure survival. You see, there's real power in silence. There's power in not explaining yourself anymore. People don't deserve your explanations. They had their chance to understand you and they failed miserably. So now, you speak with your actions instead. You show them exactly what pain molded you into. Not out of revenge. No, that's far too simple. Show them what true strength looks like when it's forged in fire and betrayal. Show them what happens when the kindest soul finally gets tired of being a doormat under everyone's feet. And when they come crawling back, and oh yes, they will come crawling back, don't let their tears confuse you. Don't let their sudden realizations make you soften up. People don't change their hearts overnight. They just get uncomfortable when the one they used to control stops playing their twisted game. So, let them cry. Let them regret. Let them feel the full absence of your presence. And don't ever lower your voice just because it makes others uncomfortable. Your story, your suffering, it was never meant to be quiet. Speak it loud and clear, even if your voice shakes while you're doing it. Because here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to rescue you from your pain. You've got to claw your way out alone, bleeding, screaming, crying the whole time. But when you finally rise up, when your knees stop shaking and your eyes stop begging for mercy, you'll realize you were always the storm. They just never saw it coming. You know what? They never tell you that sometimes strength doesn't look like standing tall and proud. Sometimes it's crawling on the ground, shaking uncontrollably, heart pounding in your ears like a drum, but still choosing not to. Fold under the pressure. It's waking up every single morning with that deep ache still living inside your chest, pretending you're fine when your whole world's been on fire for months on end. But you keep moving forward. Not because you're fully healed, hell no, but because you've accepted that the pain might never completely leave you. And that's where real power is born, in that quiet acceptance, when you stop begging for things to go back to how they used to be. When you finally stop waiting for closure, for apologies, for people to see what they did to you, that's when you start becoming untouchable. Because the truth is, they saw exactly what they did. Oh, they saw every single tear that fell, every time you tried to explain yourself, every moment you stayed silent hoping they'd understand on their own, and they didn't care one bit. They just watched it all happen. And when it benefited them, they clapped like it was a show. When you cried, they disappeared without a trace. And now they want to act confused by your distance. They want to ask what happened, as if they weren't the damn earthquake that shattered your entire foundation. But don't waste your breath on them. Don't explain the storm to people who ran for cover when the clouds first showed up. They only love the sun. They can't handle the thunder that ultimately saved your soul. You want to know what's really sad? It's not the betrayal itself, not even the heartbreak that follows. It's the realization that you were never hard to love. They were just too selfish to even try. And maybe they'll never say it out loud, but deep down, they know the truth. They know they messed up big time. They know they took advantage of someone truly rare. You were gold, and they had nothing but dust in their hands, pretending it was treasure all along. You were the safe place, the loyal one, the constant in their chaos. But they confused your kindness for weakness, thought you'd always be around no matter what, thought you'd keep forgiving and forgetting like your heart was made of rubber, until you stopped, until you got quiet, until your eyes changed forever. And that's when it hit them like a brick. They never had control. They only had access. And access can be revoked without notice, without warning, without even a goodbye. You don't owe explanations to people who knew exactly what they were doing while they were hurting you. You don't owe comfort to the ones who made you question your own worth. Let them deal with the silence they created themselves. Let them sit in the emptiness they carved out with their own choices. Let them taste the same loneliness they gifted you with so freely and without remorse. You see, people don't want to admit this, but you don't have to hate someone to let them go. You don't have to be angry forever. You just have to wake up one day and realize that loving them is starting to feel like self-destruction. that staying is costing you your peace, your mind, your very soul. And then you make the hardest decision of your life. You walk away, not because you don't care anymore, but because you finally do care about yourself. Because your heart deserves more than the bare minimum, more than fake promises and inconsistent affection, more than I love you, soaked in manipulation and control. You deserve someone who doesn't make you beg for clarity, who doesn't keep you guessing all the time, who doesn't use your love as leverage against you. And until you meet that person, you give that love to yourself first. You learn to sit in your own presence without flinching. You learn to hold your own hand when no one else shows up. You become the safe place you were always trying to build for others. And yeah, it's lonely at times. It's dark and heavy. Some nights it feels like your chest is collapsing in on itself from the weight. But it's worth it because for the first time you're not abandoning yourself for the sake of someone else's comfort. I know what it's like to be the one who gives everything, the one who sees the good in people even when it's buried under layers of brokenness and pain. But let me tell you something, and I want you to remember it with every fiber of your being, with every ounce of pain you've been through. You can't love people into being better versions of themselves. You can't bleed enough to fill the holes in their souls. That's not your job. That was never your role. Your responsibility is to heal yourself, to rise from the ashes, to take that pain they gave you and turn it into armor, not walls that keep everyone out. Armor. There's a massive difference. Walls isolate you completely. Armor lets you step back into the world guarded, but still open, still breathing, still standing tall. And when they see you again, because, oh, they will see you again, they won't recognize you at all. The old you died in the fire they lit with their own hands. The new you walks through that same fire like it's just a warm rain shower. And that's the most terrifying thing to them. You didn't just survive the blaze. You became something they can't reach or touch anymore. You know, people love to talk about healing like it's a straight line, like it's some magical process where one day you're bleeding out on the floor and the next you're walking in sunlight with a big smile on your face. That's a complete lie. Healing is brutal. It's dark and ugly. It's messy beyond words. Some days you feel like you've moved on for good, and the next you're on the floor, gasping for air, like your chest got ripped open all over again. It comes in waves, and some waves hit harder than the very first one. And guess what? That's perfectly okay. You're not weak because you still miss someone who destroyed you. You're not stupid because their name still echoes in your thoughts from time to time. That's just the residue of love, the kind you gave too deeply, too blindly, without holding anything back. But here's what you gotta understand clearly. Just because you miss them, it doesn't mean you should go back. Just because it hurts doesn't mean it was right or healthy. Pain has a funny way of trying to convince you that chaos was actually comfort, but it wasn't. You were just addicted to someone who gave you little highs between long, drawn-out stretches of hell. That wasn't love. That was survival mode, dressed up in pretty words and false promises. And now, it's time to break that addiction cold and ruthless for your own damn sanity. You keep waiting for them to change, don't you? Keep thinking if you just stay a little longer, love a little harder, they'll finally become the version of them you always believed in. But you're not in love with the actual person. You're in love with their potential. And that's incredibly dangerous. That's what keeps people trapped for years upon years, falling in love with an illusion, while reality keeps stabbing them right in the back over and over. And let me tell you, potential doesn't keep you warm at night. It doesn't wipe away your tears. It doesn't show up when you need someone to lean on in your darkest moments. So stop making excuses for people who gave you every reason to walk away. Stop rewriting their story just to justify staying in their chapter a little longer. If they wanted to grow, they would have shown it by now. If they wanted you, they wouldn't have left you questioning your worth every single day. Love is not confusion. Love is not silence when you need words. Love is not pain with apologies attached like cheap band-aids. Real love is peace. Real love is clarity. Real love feels like home, not a battlefield where you're always dodging emotional bullets fired without warning. And listen, I know exactly what they told you, that you were too sensitive, too emotional, too much for them to handle. But let me ask you something important. Too much for who? For people who barely know how to feel anything deeply. For people who grew so comfortable in their numbness that your depth scared the hell out of them? That's not a reflection of you at all. That's a mirror exposing their own shallowness. You weren't too much. You were honest and raw. You were real in a world where most people play pretend and hide behind masks. And for that, they couldn't handle you. But don't you dare shrink yourself to fit into their small, shallow world. Don't mute your voice to keep peace in places where you were never truly valued or appreciated. If your light blinds them, let them cover their own damn eyes. You weren't made to be small or quiet. You weren't made to whisper your truth just because it makes people uncomfortable. You were made to burn brightly, to rise high, to be loud in your very existence. And if they can't handle that intensity, let them leave on their own. Watch the door close behind them and don't chase after it for a second. The saddest part is that most people only realize your value after they've already lost you. After the silence fully sets in, after the texts stop coming, after they scroll through old pictures and wonder where it all went wrong. That's when it finally hits them hard. You were the calm in their chaos. You were the consistency in their confusion. You were the one who showed up without fail, who stayed through the storms, who cared more than anyone else. And now that you're gone for good, they sit in the empty space where your love used to live, haunted by their own bad decisions. And you learn to live without their noise and drama. You learn to smile without needing their validation. You rebuild yourself not to prove anything to them, but to prove to yourself that you never needed their broken love to be whole and complete. And that's where the real shift begins, when your silence becomes louder than your presence ever was. When your absence teaches them lessons that your presence never could. You ever notice how the ones you gave the most to were always the first to forget you existed? The ones you stayed up all night comforting, defending even when they weren't in the room, sacrificing your own peace just to see them smile for a moment. Those are the ones who vanish the fastest without a trace. No loyalty shown, no guilt felt, just silence like none of it ever happened or mattered. And you sit there wondering, was any of it even real? That's the part that eats you alive from the inside, isn't it? Not just the pain itself, but the doubt The confusion, the way they moved on like you were just a temporary phase, a chapter in a story they quickly outgrew, and it leaves you staring at the ceiling some nights, tracing back every word they said, every look they gave, trying to pinpoint the exact moment they stopped meaning any of it. But the truth is, they never meant it the way you did. You were all in from the start. They were just passing time until something better came along. You were building a future together in your mind. They were simply enjoying the moment without commitment. That's the wound that takes the longest to heal. The one left not with outright cruelty, but with cold indifference. Because at least cruelty shows you mattered enough to be hated or fought against. Indifference? That's them telling you without words that you never really mattered at all in the first place. But here's what they don't understand about people like you. You don't just give love casually. You build it from the ground up. You craft it carefully. You shape it with intention. With every late-night message you sent, every little detail you remembered about them, every time you chose to stay when others would have walked away without looking back, you're rare. And rarity like that doesn't get recognized by just anyone. It takes real depth to see depth, and most people are far too shallow to dive that far below the surface. So what do they do instead? They label you as too intense. They say you care too much, love too hard. But that's only because they never learned how to handle love that wasn't performative or superficial. You gave them something real and authentic. And real exposes people for who they are. It shows them how empty they've become inside. It forces them to confront parts of themselves they've been running from for years. That's why they push you away. Eventually, because your presence makes their absence of soul painfully obvious, and now you're sitting in the aftermath of it all. You've seen too much, felt too deeply. You've got bruises on your spirit that no one ever claps for or acknowledges. You walk around smiling on the outside while your mind is still stuck, replaying that one final moment. The goodbye. The last goodbye. The final message that went unanswered. The silence that never got broken no matter how hard you tried. You live there sometimes, don't you? In that painful space between what you truly deserved and what you settled for out of fear or hope. But I'm here to tell you something crucial. You're not broken beyond repair. You're evolving into something stronger. The pain didn't come to end you. It came to awaken you fully, to peel away the softness that kept you bleeding for people who never once brought bandages or cared enough to stop the hurt. It came to force you into becoming the version of yourself you were always too scared to meet. The one who doesn't beg for love. The one who doesn't chase after crumbs. The one who doesn't tolerate love that's half-grown and underfed like a neglected plant. They thought you'd stay soft forever, that they could keep showing up half-present, and you'd still hold the door wide open for them. But you changed quietly and gradually, not with loud noise or dramatic revenge, but with pure awareness and self-respect. You finally saw them for what they truly were, lessons to learn from, not lifelines to cling to. You stopped blaming yourself for the way they couldn't love you properly. You stopped over-explaining your feelings, over-apologizing for having needs, over-giving until there was nothing left for you. You stopped bending over backward just to fit into spaces that weren't shaped for you from the beginning. And maybe they didn't notice the change right away, but eventually they will. Eventually, they'll go back to the place where your love used to live and find it empty, cold and completely locked up tight, not out of spite or pettiness, but because you finally realized you were enough without them, beyond them, despite everything they made you believe about yourself. And listen closely when they come back around, and they absolutely will come back around. Don't let the guilt speak louder than the memories of pain. Don't forget the nights you cried yourself numb and exhausted. Don't forget the days you questioned your worth because of their deafening silence. Don't forget how you begged God or the universe for answers, for peace, for something, anything, to make the ache finally go away. You survived all of that. You rebuilt from the ground up from that. You became stronger because of that exact hell. So don't hand your hard-earned peace back to the person who stole it in the first place without a second thought. You're not obligated to let them in just because they suddenly remember your name or act sorry. Forgiveness is yours to give if you choose. But access, that's a privilege they have to earn, not a right they can demand. You know what's funny in a twisted way? People always want you to forgive and move on quickly, but not because they genuinely care about your healing process. Number. They just don't want to face what they did to you. Your silence reminds them constantly. Your distance makes them uncomfortable in their skin. Your growth, that's the final nail in the coffin of their comfort zone they've been hiding in. They want you to let it all go, not because they're truly sorry, but because your memory is a mirror that shows them the ugly truth they've buried under layers of lies and ego. And when you refuse to play dumb any longer, when you don't answer their guilt-ridden messages, when you stop pretending like nothing ever happened, oh, that's when they get nervous and panicky, because now they realize they lost access to something pure and irreplaceable. Not perfect by any means, but real and deep. You weren't flawless. No one is, but you were present every time. You loved fully and deeply, even when it hurt you badly. And now that love is gone, pulled back into the vault where only people who truly earn it can find it again. And here's the brutal part. Most won't admit. Most of them won't earn it because they weren't ready for it in the first place. They weren't built for something that real. They just thought you'd always be there waiting with open arms, like some permanent emotional rescue plan they could call on whenever. But you've learned your lessons. You've changed for the better. You've hardened in the right ways, not out of hate or bitterness, but out of sheer necessity and self-preservation. Because kindness without any boundaries eventually becomes self-destruction if you're not careful. And now, you're building walls with the bricks they threw at you during their worst moments. And it's about damn time you did. You ever sit in your room alone and just stare at the ceiling, wondering how the hell you became the one carrying all the pain while they walk around like nothing ever happened, like your whole world wasn't turned completely upside down, while they sleep just fine at night without a care? That used to eat you alive inside, didn't it? That unfair feeling that they got peace while you got nothing but pieces to pick up. But here's the truth you need to swallow whole. They're not at peace. Not really. No matter how it looks. People like that bury everything deep down. They distract themselves constantly. They deflect responsibility. They project their guilt onto others. But silence is a liar's worst nightmare. And every time they lay down in the dark alone, the truth crawls out from underneath their skin like a monster. They remember the way you looked at them, when you still believed every word. They hear the words you used to say, not the loud, angry ones, but the soft, vulnerable ones that came straight from your soul. That kind of stuff doesn't just vanish into thin air, it haunts them forever. And while you're out here learning to stand tall again on your own, they're slowly sinking into the weight of everything they broke, but never had the courage to admit or fix. So don't waste your precious energy trying to show them you're better off without them. Just be better, quietly, powerfully, without any need to announce your growth to the world. Because real healing doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't post updates on social media. It shows up in the way your eyes stop looking for what was never truly yours to begin with. It shows up when your phone stays dry, but your heart is still full and content. When you're alone but not lonely anymore, even in the quiet moments. And I know some nights still hit you completely out of nowhere like a freight train. You hear a familiar song, you catch a scent that reminds you, you pass a place you used to go together, and suddenly it's like your chest is caving in all over again from the memories. That's grief in its rawest form, not just for the person you lost, but for the version of you that loved them so fiercely, for the dreams you built together that never came to be, for the future that died silently in your hands without a proper goodbye. But even that intense pain is a teacher, if you let it be. It tells you exactly where your boundaries were too soft and permeable. It shows you the cracks in your armor that need reinforcing. And most importantly, it reminds you of who you're never going to be again, under any circumstances. You're not bitter or jaded. You're not cold-hearted. You're just done bleeding for people who only ever brought knives to the table. You're done playing savior to souls that would watch you drown just to stay afloat themselves. You've earned your peace through blood and tears. You've walked through hell and back. You've been quiet for far too long in the face of it all. And now, every step you take forward is a quiet rebellion against the version of you they tried to kill with their carelessness and indifference. And maybe you don't see it clearly yet, but you're already rising stronger than before. Not with fireworks or loud celebrations, not with noise and fanfare, but with quiet decisions that scream, "I deserve more than this." With boundaries that don't shake no matter what. With a heart that still hopes for better but doesn't beg for it anymore. That's real strength. That's true survival. That's you. Still standing, still breathing, still here after everything they put you through. And if that doesn't make you dangerous in the best way, I don't know what does. Let me tell you something that most people will never admit out loud because it's too uncomfortable. Sometimes you heal in complete silence because you no longer have the energy to explain your pain to the very people who made it worse in the first place. You grow quiet, not because you've fully moved on, but because you're tired of screaming into rooms where nobody truly listens or cares, tired of proving your worth over and over to people who saw your value crystal clear and still chose to treat you like a disposable option. And in that heavy silence, something absolutely terrifying happens to them. You stop needing them entirely, not out of hate or spite, not out of revenge or pettiness, but out of pure clarity and self-realization. It hits you one night between the endless tears and the crushing loneliness and the non-stop overthinking. I can't keep doing this to myself anymore. That's the exact moment the shift begins for good, when the part of you that kept holding on to hope finally starts packing its bags and leaving. When your soul bruised and blistered from the battles, whispers softly but firmly, "Enough is enough." And no one sees that internal moment. No one hears it happen. There's no big dramatic goodbye scene or confrontation. Just distance growing day by day. Just space you create for yourself. Just you putting the shattered pieces back together in the dark while the people who broke you in the first place wonder why you stopped answering their calls and texts like they didn't hand you the silence first with their own actions. And isn't it sick and twisted how they make you feel guilty for walking away, like you abandoned them without cause, like you were the problem all along from the very start, as if they didn't watch you fall apart piece by piece while trying to love them the right way with everything you had, as if they didn't feel your energy shifting dramatically when your efforts went completely unreciprocated time and time again. You know what they loved most about you, not you as a whole person, number. They loved how you made them feel about themselves in the moment. They loved the light you shined directly on their broken egos to make them feel whole. But the moment you needed even a fraction of that same light shined back on you, they disappeared into the shadows like cowards. Not because they couldn't love you properly, but because loving someone deeply and consistently requires real accountability. And accountability terrifies people who are addicted to control and convenience. So they spin the entire story to save face. They make it look like you were too emotional, too reactive, too needy for them. But here's the real punchline that cuts deep. You were just asking for the bare minimum every human deserves. Loyalty that doesn't waver. Effort that shows up consistently. Clarity that doesn't leave you guessing. And if that's too much for someone to give, let them go without hesitation. Don't lower your standards just because someone else's capacity for love is shallow and limited. You ever notice how the ones who claimed they loved you the most were the same exact ones who hurt you the deepest in the end? Not because they were honest about their feelings, but because they were painfully inconsistent from day one. One minute they're all in and fully present, and the next they're cold as ice, distant and dismissive without explanation. They love bomb you hard, pull you close until you believe you found home, then leave without any warning or closure. And you sit there, blaming yourself entirely, thinking, maybe I did too much. Maybe I loved them all wrong somehow. But no, they were never ready for something real and lasting. That's the bitter, painful truth you have to face. And the worst part of it all, you ignored the red flags waving right in front of you, not because you were blind or naive, but because you were loyal to the version of them you saw so clearly in your heart. The version they never even became, the version they never even tried to become despite all your faith. That's why it hurts so damn much in the aftermath. You weren't just grieving a person, you were grieving your own hope and optimism, your own unwavering loyalty, the parts of yourself you gave so freely to someone who didn't have the depth or capacity to receive it properly. But again, it's okay that it happened this way. You had to lose yourself completely to find the truth underneath it all. And now you walk a little differently through life. You speak a little less often. You feel a little more intensely, but you hide it better from the world. And people mistake that protective silence for full healing. They think just because you don't talk about it anymore, it doesn't haunt you in quiet moments. But what they don't understand is that pain doesn't always scream loudly. Sometimes it just lingers quietly like smoke in your lungs after the fire, like a shadow trailing behind every new connection you attempt. But here's the silver lining. Even if it never fully leaves you, it still made you stronger in ways you can't imagine yet. Not colder or closed off, stronger and wiser. You've learned to recognize toxic patterns early. You've learned to listen to people's energy over their empty words. You've learned that love alone isn't enough when respect is completely missing from the equation. You've learned that people can say they care deeply and still treat you like you're entirely disposable when it suits them. And now you protect your peace like your life depends on it. Because in a very real way, it does. Your peace is the foundation for everything else good in your life. And anyone who threatens that peace, anyone who plays games with your emotions or your heart, doesn't deserve access to you anymore, under any circumstances. There's a version of you out there, somewhere in the past, the one that existed before they broke you down completely. The one that still believed without question, still smiled without any suspicion, still held out their heart with both hands open without flinching or fear. And maybe you mourn that version of yourself sometimes on quiet nights. Maybe you wish you could go back to that softer, more innocent time before the lies started piling up, before the fake apologies became routine, before you realize that loyalty doesn't mean a damn thing to people who only love you when it's easy and convenient for them. But here's what they'll never fully understand. That version of you didn't disappear into nothing. He transformed and grew. He evolved into something more resilient. You didn't lose your softness entirely. You just learned how to protect it fiercely with boundaries. You didn't stop loving altogether. You just started being more careful and selective with who you give it to from now on. And if that means being alone more often than before, so be it without apology. If that means fewer late-night calls, fewer so-called friends, fewer forced smiles to keep the peace, then fine by all means. Peace over forced popularity, healing over harmful habits every single time. That version of you that used to overextend yourself constantly, over-explain every feeling, overthink every interaction. He was drowning slowly in a sea of people who never cared whether he sank or floated to safety. So yeah, it's okay if you miss him from time to time, but don't you dare wish to be him again under any circumstances. He didn't survive what you did through sheer will. He would have folded under the pressure. He would have begged and pleaded to stay. But you walk through fire alone without any applause or rescue team. And now you carry that fire deep in your chest like a powerful weapon, not to burn the whole world down in revenge, but to make sure you're never left out in the cold again, without your own light. You learned the hard way, didn't you? That most people only love you when it's convenient for their schedule or mood, that they'll romanticize your loyalty endlessly until it starts demanding real effort in return from them, that they'll label you crazy the moment you call out their blatant hypocrisy without sugarcoating it. It's not that you were too much for them, it's that they were too little inside and didn't want to admit their own shortcomings. So they left as fast as they could, or worse, they stayed just long enough to drain every drop of energy from you and then disappeared without a trace when you had nothing left to give. And you, with your bleeding heart and unshakable hope in people, kept giving everything anyway, thinking maybe this time they'd finally see your worth clearly. But they never did see it. They never wanted to see it. Because if they truly saw you, they'd have to see themselves too in the reflection. They'd have to face how selfish they were being all along, how they took and took and took and called it love when it was anything but. That's the kind of uncomfortable truth that people run from as fast as they can. And when you finally set a firm boundary, finally closed the door for good, they called you the villain in their rewritten story. Isn't that something twisted? You become the bad guy in someone else's narrative the moment you stop letting them write yours without your input. But don't apologize for it. Don't explain yourself again. Let them tell whatever story they need to protect their fragile ego from the truth. You've got nothing left to prove to them. Not anymore, not ever again. And now you sit with this new version of yourself, quieter on the surface, colder to those who don't deserve warmth, sharper in your perceptions and decisions. You don't trust as quickly as you used to. You don't laugh as easily at just anything. You scan every word someone says for hidden meanings and red flags. Every silence from them feels like a warning bell now. And you hate that sometimes, don't you? You hate how the past has shaped your present so deeply, how their lies still echo in your thoughts on bad days. But that's all part of the messy process. That's part of true healing in the real world. You don't walk away from a battlefield without picking up some scars along the way. And you were in a full-blown war that no one else saw from the outside. You were bleeding emotionally on the inside while smiling in public like everything was fine. You were screaming silently on the inside while texting back, "I'm fine, really." But now, you know better than to repeat the same mistakes. Now, you don't hand out access to your heart like it's candy at a parade. Now, you wait patiently. You watch their actions closely. You listen to what they do, not just what they say. And if someone doesn't match your energy from the start, if they speak in riddles and love with conditions attached, you walk away without hesitation. No drama or big scenes, no explosive anger, just calm silence as you exit. Because the version of you that once begged for crumbs of affection is done for good. And he knows now that it's better to be starving alone with your dignity than feasting in the presence of cowards who would sell you out. So if today still hurts deep in your bones, if your chest still feels heavy like a weight is sitting on it, if the memories still crawl back like unwanted shadows under the door, let it all hurt without fighting it. Let the tears come freely when they need to, but don't confuse this pain for weakness or failure. It's the last fire burning away what's left of your old attachment. It's the final goodbye your soul never got to say out loud to their face. And when it finally passes for good, when you exhale without their name attached to your grief anymore, you'll see it all clearly at last. You didn't lose them in the end. You lost the illusion you built around them. You lost the idea of who they could have been if they tried. And in return, you found yourself, the version of you that doesn't beg to be chosen by anyone. The version that walks away not because he's bitter or broken, but because he finally knows exactly what he's worth and won't settle for less. And you know what else is hard to accept? One of the toughest pills to swallow is realizing they never felt it the same way you did. While you were up at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling with their name echoing inside your ribs like a heartbeat, they were out laughing with friends, sleeping peacefully without a care, or already talking to someone new to replace you. While you were breaking your own heart trying to understand what you did wrong to deserve the pain, They were already rewriting the entire story in their mind to make themselves feel better about walking away. That's the unique cruelty of it all. You cared with everything you had in you. You poured your heart into a cup with no bottom, watching it spill out endlessly. And they stood there watching the whole mess happen, acting like they didn't see a single drop hit the ground. And when you finally collapsed from the sheer exhaustion of loving someone who never truly chose you back, they acted surprised and confused. They always do in the end, like they didn't notice the fire slowly going out in your voice over time, like they didn't feel you slipping away every single time they dismissed your pain without care. But deep down, they knew everything. They knew you were holding the full weight of the whole connection on your shoulders alone. They just didn't care enough to help carry it because it was comfortable for them. You were convenient and easy. You made it simple for them to feel wanted and loved without putting in the real work to deserve any of it. And when you stopped giving endlessly, when you finally had enough and drew the line, they called you cold, heartless, distant, because people absolutely hate when you start treating them exactly the way they treated you all along. But let me tell you something, and I want this to sink in deep into your bones. You are not the villain in your own story. You're the survivor who made it out alive, the one who stayed far too long, gave way too much, believed way too hard despite all the signs. You didn't walk away because you stopped caring about them. You walked away because no one noticed that you were slowly dying in the process of keeping them alive emotionally. And now they miss your energy and presence, not your actual soul or who you are as a person. They miss the way you made them feel important and seen. They miss the way you answered their calls quickly, forgave them quickly, loved them deeply without holding back. But they don't miss you, the real you. They miss the benefits and convenience you provided. That's the crucial part you need to remember when they come crawling back with sad puppy eyes and shaky, regretful voices. They don't want to fix what they broke. They want to reset the dynamic to how it was. They want access again to your light. Not because they've changed or grown, but because you finally have changed for the better. You finally stopped giving them the best parts of you while they handed you their absolute worst in return. And that shift scares them more than actually losing you ever did. The silence after walking away, it's deafeningly loud in its own way. It screams in your ears some nights when you're alone, not because you regret your decision, but because you feel everything so deeply still. You always did feel that way. That's what made you different from them. That's what made you real and rare. And yeah, sometimes you wonder in quiet moments if they ever think about you anymore, if they ever replay the old memories in their head, if they ever wish they'd done things differently to keep you. But whether they do or they don't, it doesn't change your truth one bit. Your pain was real and valid. Your love was real and selfless, and your decision to leave, that was the strongest, bravest thing you've ever done in your life, because staying would have been easier, more familiar, seemingly safe in the chaos. But you chose yourself over comfort. And that choice is the beginning of everything good to come. That's where true healing starts. Not when the pain magically stops one day, but when you stop choosing people who treat you like an afterthought or backup plan. You ever meet someone so emotionally reckless that they confuse your healing journey with arrogance or ego? Like your personal growth offends them deeply, like your healthy distance is somehow disrespect toward them. That's what happens when people realize they can't manipulate or control you any longer. They twist the entire narrative to fit their victim story. They act like you changed out of nowhere. And you did change, but for the better. You grew into someone stronger. You stopped making endless excuses for behavior that left you in pieces scattered on the floor. You stopped replying to mixed signals that kept you anxious. You stopped dancing desperately for love that was never consistent or reliable. And now you walk differently through the world. You speak differently with intention. You even love differently, quieter, stronger, slower, and more deliberate than before. Not out of fear or trauma, but out of hard-earned wisdom and self-respect. You know the real cost of reckless love now. You've paid it in full with tears, with breakdowns no one witnessed, with lonely nights that seemed endless and suffocating. And the receipt for all that pain? It's your unshakable peace, your raised standards, your firm refusal to be dragged back into chaos just because someone suddenly realizes you were the calm in their storm all along. So the next time you feel weak for still hurting on certain days, remind yourself gently that it takes real time to unlearn how to love someone who made your heart their temporary home and then left without warning or care. It takes time to rebuild the parts of you they left hollow and empty inside. But you will rebuild, one quiet, intentional day at a time, brick by brick. And the people who truly deserve you in their life will never make you question if you do for a single second. Let me ask you something direct. When did you stop being enough for them exactly? Was it the moment you asked for more than scraps? The second you stopped pretending everything was perfectly fine when it wasn't? Or was it when they realized they couldn't control your every move anymore? Because that's usually when people start acting like you changed for the worse. They don't care that you were loyal through hell. They don't care that you showed up even when it tore you apart inside. They only care that you stopped being convenient and easy for them to keep around. They confuse your exhaustion with distance, your silence with disrespect or coldness. But what they'll never admit out loud is that they were the reason you had to choose your peace over staying connected to their toxicity. You gave chance after chance after chance, explained your heart when you shouldn't have had to, forgave wounds that kept cutting you open deeper each time. And still, they looked at your love like it was disposable and unimportant, like it was easily replaceable with someone else. But now, they're choking on that bad choice because the second you walked away for good, they realized something they'll never say aloud. You were the best thing that ever happened to someone who never deserved you in the first place. And people love to preach about forgiveness, don't they? Let go of the past, they say with ease. Don't hold on to bitterness or resentment, but what they don't understand at all is that your silence is a form of forgiveness in itself. Choosing not to expose their wrongs publicly, that's grace under pressure. Choosing not to retaliate or seek revenge, not to scream what they did from the rooftops, that's real mercy in action. But make no mistake here, forgiveness doesn't mean giving them access again. It doesn't mean you owe them your time, your energy, or your attention ever again in this lifetime. You can forgive someone completely and still never want to see their face cross your path. You can forgive them and still block their number, walk right past them on the street, or leave their message unread forever. That's not pettiness or holding grudges. It's protection for your peace, because the same hand that hurt you so deeply doesn't get to hold you again just because it's now shaking with fake remorse. Let them sit alone in the silence they created with their actions. Let them scroll through your old messages late at night and realize they'll never get words like that from you ever again. Let them remember the version of you they'll never have access to anymore, and let that realization be their natural consequence for what they did. You see, pain is a strange and harsh teacher in life. It doesn't show up politely in a classroom with permission. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It kicks the damn door in without knocking, tears everything you knew down to the ground, and says firmly, "Now rebuild from scratch." And you do rebuild, slowly at first, painfully, with every step, one small piece at a time, until it starts to make sense. But this time around, you build differently and smarter than before. You don't leave your door wide open for just anyone anymore. You don't apologize for having standards and boundaries. You don't accept half-hearted love just because your heart is tired and lonely. No, this version of you checks people's energy carefully from the start. You watch their actions over a long period, not just in the honeymoon phase. You stop falling for sweet words that mean nothing and start listening for consistent patterns that prove reliability. And when someone shows you who they really are the very first time without masks, you believe them fully. You believe them not because you're paranoid or jaded, but because the past already taught you exactly what ignoring red flags costs in the end. And you paid that price in full with your own blood and tears. And I know there are still nights when you question yourself endlessly, still wonder if you overreacted to things, still hear their accusing voice in your head telling you that you were too much to handle. But let me tell you something real and grounding. You weren't too much at all. They were just too little inside to match you. You didn't ask for anything wrong or unreasonable. You asked for consistency that lasts, for clarity that doesn't confuse, for effort that shows up without being begged for. And when someone isn't built or willing to give those basic things, they'll make you feel guilty for even wanting them in the first place. That's their go-to survival tactic, to twist your healthy standards into personal flaws, to make you question the very things that make you valuable and rare. But no more of that self-doubt. Not this time around. Not this stronger version of you. You've come way too far to let someone gaslight you back into believing you're unworthy of real love. Because you are worthy, so damn worthy of love that doesn't confuse or hurt you, conversations that don't leave you anxious and overthinking, effort that doesn't need to be begged for or chased. And from now on, if someone can't meet you at that level without games, you walk away quietly, completely, without any warning or explanation. Let them feel the full weight of your absence. Let them drown in the silence they thought you'd never have the strength to give them. You owe them absolutely nothing. Not a reply to clear their conscience. Not a goodbye to ease their guilt. Not closure to help them move on. They had their chance to do right, and they burned the bridge themselves. And now they're left staring at the smoke, wondering why you're not rushing back to rebuild it for them again like you used to. But you're done with that role forever. You're done being the savior who fixes everyone, the forgiver who lets it slide, the emotional builder for people who only ever taught you how to swim in endless pain just to survive them. You're done with all of it. Now you're the one who walks away. Not out of bitterness or hate, but out of deep, unconditional love for yourself and your future.